Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is officially June 1st, 2023, and this is another edition of the MSP Initiative Live, or we like to call it MSP Talk. Just some housekeeping we like to get done at the beginning of all of these sessions, and then we'll get into the good stuff. So mspinitiative.com, this and every other session we have ever done is going to be under sessions. It's going to be under podcast and video format. Pick whichever one works best for you. If you're driving, audio is probably the better play. We have our Community Minds event coming up in Denver, August 14th and 15th. This is completely free to MSPs to join us. You do have to register and you do have to make your way out there, but there is no cost to actually, join the event. What this is a workshop-based event. We want to bring different people from around the community who are going to come in, talk to you about specific topics. Could be legal, could be growth, could be marketing, could be security, could be a bunch of different things. But like get past death by PowerPoint and into an actual working session. So I want you to get actually into the process of doing something rather than taking notes from bullet points off of a slide and then go home and you never do anything. So there'll be some MSP partner panels and it'll be a good time. It'll be out in Denver. So 14th and 15th, mark it down your calendar. Please join us. We'll be announcing the session shortly. Then we have the community block parties for the rest of the year. We finished a bunch overseas. We have one more coming up in Dublin. So if you're going to DataCon Dublin at the end of June, we'll be doing a block party there. Definitely check it out. Register, join us in Ireland. We'll be down in Fort Lauderdale with Taylor Business Group and the Big Conference. We'll be doing a MSP boat party on the Intercoastal. It was great last year. Looking forward to this year. We'll be in Miami again. The rest of these are in Florida, shocker, for DataCon Miami. So we'll be doing a block party there. And then lastly is the Orlando. This is usually our biggest one. And last year we had the All American Rejects. We'll be announcing our band shortly. So we have our community offers. These are companies from around the sandbox that just have special offers for people through MSP Initiative. We have our industry calendar. So this is just us dumping all of our homework into one place. If for some reason we've missed something or you think that it's worth adding something that should be in the calendar, just submit the form and we'll make sure to get it in there. Other than that, that is MSP Initiative, and our goal is to do some collaborative stuff around the IT and MSP sandbox. So now all of the housekeeping is out of the way. For the first time, introducing Kevin as our co-panelist today here. Kevin, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. How are you?
Yep, doing okay. It's a Thursday. It's finally summertime here in our part of the world. So very happy about that here in suburban Philadelphia, where I'm not saying that it's Wisconsin, but it gets cold. Like a little bit less sun, a little bit less snow, and a little bit more sun. But some would argue that I'm on planes too much, so I don't even get to shovel as much as I should. But that doesn't mean that I didn't put many years of shoveling, because I did. Where are you based at?
I'm in Seattle, so cold is probably not Wisconsin level, but also not Florida level. But
yeah,
like you said, ready for the weekend.
Yeah, I feel like we're in Florida a lot because a lot of the channel or IT and MSP centric events end up in Florida for some reason. I don't know how many times you can do Disney World and Universal, but hey, I'm all for the turkey leg, right? I mean, that's always a good buy when you're walking down the aisle. If you could, since this is the first time you've been on the podcast, maybe give people a little bit of your background and where did you start and how did you end up in technology land, and take us down memory lane a little bit.
Absolutely. So as with most people, memory lane starts in college, where you first think of, I know everything now, I know what I want to do, which is also the time for me, and now I'm telling my age, when Facebook first started to get big and the question came up, okay, what's actually happening with our data? What's happening with us being what's sold. And from there, I went into technology, and data turned into identities, and I went into selling identity management. And given that I'm on a tech podcast, I hopefully don't have to say it's that little ugly thing of putting in your username and password, and in the background 100 systems run wildly to get you into everything you want to do that day.
That's true. I mean, let's be honest. Identity management's very popular topic these days because, and listen, there's a lot of people out there that have created entire companies around it. Of course, Microsoft is one, but it's interesting, like the concept of taking your online kind of capacity, and really it comes down to not the system that you're tying to, it's actually you, right? And I think that concept is still relatively new. We still hear that the death of the password's been announced 100 times 100, but it's still around. I'm curious, right? So you went into college, you decided technology is for you. I guess you started this company, right? Like,
no, it was actually 10 years old when I joined. We were like 20 people, and then I took it over to the States from Germany. That's my claim to fame within the company.
There's the wrinkle I was looking for.
So building it up here and getting to know that when people say it's fine, it doesn't mean it's fine.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what does the company solve for? Right? The name of the company is Univention. Did I get that right?
That's perfect for a first try. Yeah, Univention, as I said, we built the identity management system, which for anyone in technology means someone goes in there, hopefully not the IT admin, plugs in the name, and the system spits out, okay, here's the username, here's your password, or in a good case, here's the token that you take out of the shelf. And then the system goes and says, okay, email server, here's the username, email, password, or authentication information. Oh, CRM, here's the same information, plus the person's telephone number, and so on. Backup, that's the computer you need to, computer, by the way, that's the person. That's how he gets in. And likewise, when someone starts, they hopefully only have to authenticate one and not get 400 password prompts because no one ever thought about single sign-on.
So is it it's actually a single sign-on solution, not necessarily a password manager, right? It goes kind of to the next level.
It goes to the next level. It's the server component for managing the whole identities, for giving you the single sign-on capability, and really making it nice for both the user and the IT admin. Because
so we definitely hear from a lot of the people in the sandbox, SSO tax, right? When you talk about a lot of the systems that you're using, like the base tier doesn't allow you to even do single sign-on, right? You actually have to go to a higher tier. I believe there's even a website, that actually like kind of lists everyone that falls into that category, right? They're trying to like force people to make it a standard thing. I mean, we know that Microsoft says that over 50% of their users, I think it's closer to 67, I think I read, don't even have MFA turned on. So like the adoption of single sign-on is still relatively low, right? Why is that? Why do you think that that's not adopted more?
I think it's the two things. For one, the tax on, okay, we have to grow into it, we have to provide it. The other thing which comes to it is also people being used to entering a password and thinking it's more secure if they enter it 5 times. And if you look at back how we start with computers, and I have kids in school now who get a laptop, they get a password, they get a username, and no one really wants to trust them giving them like a YubiKey, which you can, where do I have one? Like, oh, well, it's on the playground now, let's go away. And that way we train them for 16 years, passwords are great. We train them even in college that, okay, here's your password for your student data. And afterwards, Yeah, no one really goes in and changes that mindset. And
So, yeah, 100%. So like when I think about this topic, right, I think Okta was probably really early on, right, as a widely adopted, option. And Microsoft with Azure, when Office 365 got very popular, kind of popped out onto the scene and said, hey, just use it, right? It should tie into all your stuff and you're already using Microsoft. Why consider this third-party solution as a better route? Where do I get the advantage of going down this route?
so first of all, it's not just Okta, it's all the way back to the 1980s where the protocols behind Active Directory come from. Then you have Microsoft building their products, and
No, I mean, yeah,
the
I mean, it
single
definitely
sign-on is a
goes.
lot older than web
Oh,
technology.
yeah, I hear you. I'm thinking like, I'm only going back maybe 10, 12, 15 years, right? I mean, in the early days when people were still using America Online as their internet provider, like password managers weren't really even a thing, right? It wasn't even really popular. So I think like in the modern, when I say modern era, right, I'm thinking like 2004, 2005, right? Like even pre-Office 365 used to be called Business Productivity Suite, BPOS. I don't know if you remember that, right? Like Active Directory, right? Like once you left the local network, you didn't think about Active Directory, right? So
Yeah.
if Microsoft has their way, that the directory's in the cloud, right? Like the on-premise server is no longer managing that.
We have to see it where you are in this company, because putting everything in the cloud makes you, first of all, dependent on your internet connection.
True.
Which, no matter which provider you have here in the US, outages are still a thing.
Fair.
And the other thing is you're then at the mercy of the provider of saying, okay, you can connect that or you can't. So you not just have the SSO tags from your service provider, but also from your identity provider, which you don't have if you have it on premises, or if you have it in kind of even AWS where you control the machine.
Okay. So like from an IT or managed services standpoint, is the idea that they would take your software, your platform, and then park it, self-host it, right? Private cloud or Amazon or a server in the closet, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this centralization point to act as your single sign-on solution.
You have the identity management endpoint, in your data center for the MSP, which is, I think, one of our most popular ways of now getting to the customer. The MSP controls it. The MSP then is able to dock on different solutions to it, which they have in their portfolio. So kind of use the solution as a basis for providing more services and also providing them rapidly, which is one of the other advantages of our solution. Is you can roll out a mail service with 3 clicks, and you don't have to worry about, okay, how do I connect my Google Cloud now to the stuff I provide, and or the other direction, how do I provide my little piece of software which I've developed for the customer to whatever Google is providing. No, I'm the one who's providing the whole services for the customer.
Interesting. So is this multi-tenanted by design? Because if obviously IT and managed services providers usually have multiple customers that they're providing, multiple services for. So like, you might want to carve out just what they see for their company versus others now.
So by default, it's single tenant. So it's normally because people don't want to share access. If you control the administration, then it's easy to put it into multi-tenant by just pushing one flip and using like an email address for login instead of a username where you might run into conflicts. Hey, why can't I have that username? Because someone else in the system already has it.
Okay, I'm gonna share your website just for to help me explain maybe a little bit more about what you guys do. So here are the main 3 blocks, right? Identity management and access, right? So they explain the 3 big cogs here: login, user self-service, and then you have like a portal where all their like kind of an intranet portal, right? And then you say, hey, listen, we're tying into Windows and Linux, servers and operating systems, right? And then you kind of start to go into like, hey, here's all the other things that, IT services and infrastructure, right? Like what it may be able to do. Do you have like, are IT, like, is this meant, did you originally have this designed for like the IT department? Like internal IT for a corporation? Was this the original idea? Like versus the IT provider who's like doing, multiple companies are now being managed by the same group, or, did you actually target both sides?
So the original was for big government departments. So the history of the company is in the wake of 9/11, people got a bit scared. What happens if a big plane crashes into Redmond? And our big IT company right around the corner goes boom. And then we provide a solution to that, an open source solution. And then was, designed for big government department, but with the thing in mind that, at least in Europe, where we started, governments normally have their IT MSPs, which kind of centralizes the services. So it's not that every government department house here in the US has their own little fiefdom, but they have a central service provider who then needs to manage all of the little fiefdoms where people don't want to integrate.
Interesting. And then like, obviously you've been building this product over time. Like, have you seen successful adoption by managed service providers of this solution? Like, can you give us examples of what you're seeing out there?
Yeah, we have seen it, especially in the school area, where smaller school districts generally tend to have then a service provider. And we have now projects which span universities, which span the combination of military and universities, where you really have interesting ideas about how some of our partners go in there and say, okay, that's how it's done. No one can say anything about it, because once we get into a discussion, there will be hundreds of opinions. And it's really the MSPs for us are the ones who bring it closer to the customers, because a lot of customers who are security centric are also very network centric in terms of the human network, not in terms of the computer centric. That once you know the right person, you get in, you're the guy who's being trusted. And that's something, no matter what kind of company you are, you can never replace that kind of human connection. MSPs have, and generally all advisors, I would say, have.
So I stumbled into this page. I want to share it real quick. So it's like, hey, your software solution inside like an app center or like catalog, right? And then like is the idea that they sign into the portal, and then all of the apps that you've exposed to them are, you've already pre-selected, and then they can click on it, and then they're already inside of the app. Is that the idea?
It starts a bit earlier. So you don't even have to have them installed. You can just make them available to your customer, and they click on it, and then the system takes care of installing it, of integrating it into the user management, so that the users who are already in there, or who get into whatever app is in there, and then the app can also send on the billing information to you that says, okay, there are 6 or 7 people using it, or activated for using it. We normally don't collect user data, because then you get into data protection issues. But there are 6 or 7 people activated. You have to invoice your customer now, and then order the appropriate amount of support to provide your customer with it.
Interesting. So like, how far does this go, right? We're not just talking about apps on the LAN. What about SaaS applications, right? And like, obviously the internet's ever growing.
Yep. Starting from simple connection like SAMLs or OpenID, where you just send it somewhere and have to put your own keys in, to some of the higher level connectors for Microsoft, Google, or if you're with one of the other these two, most likely your email provider runs Open Exchange somewhere in the background, which is one of our big partners. We have connectors for them as well, which gives you then Rackspace or similar services.
Interesting. And then like, are you able to use things like the YubiKey or maybe the authenticator apps on the phones as well? Or how do they get incorporated?
Yes, so for the internet part, it's included that you can use YubiKey where it's on there, or different authentication mechanisms. And then there are extensions for on-premises, because still most client operating systems don't support things like the YubiKey out of the box.
Yeah, that's true. Is the idea that, think about it from an automation standpoint though, right? Like whenever I have to onboard or offboard users, I got to go into multiple systems and create accounts and assign roles. And like, if you don't automate any of that, a single user could take an hour to set up or something like that, right? Just to like create all the accounts, right? For them to do what they need to do. Is there a way to like automate that process at all in your platform?
Yes. So once the thing is connected, the management system is designed to have templates, and they're so simple broken down that it's meant for you to say, okay, that's a template how a user looks like, and now I can give it to HR to log in with their credentials. Say add user, they have to enter the first name, last name, and depending on whether you want them to set the password or whether you want the system to set the password. And then you click on, okay, this user is a IT admin, or this user is someone who's working in accounting. Then they click on finish and the system provisions everything. It sets the roles correctly. It gives you access to the data you need, or prevents you from accessing stuff you shouldn't have access to. And that way controls all the steps that really, if we work in IT, we don't really like these kind of data entry jobs. So why not offload it to someone else, someone who has to do it anyways? You can give it a step further. Some of our customers have taken it to the point, normally with a partner, that the HR system directly talks to the management system. So you really get your onboarding letter with the password already, and no one has to touch the IT to get that in, and or to get the user offline when he leaves.
That's definitely interesting, because I can say pretty confidently that a lot of the day-to-day, right? Because like employees come and go, it's nature of the beast. Like onboarding and offboarding IT accounts, systems, tools, computers, SaaS apps. I mean, that happens all day, every day. There's a question that came in and said, can you talk about compliance and like certifications, like, so from a customer perspective, which compliance frameworks could this product help with?
Generally, everything where you touch users, starting from, we have worked with the medical field a lot, where you then need to follow up, okay, who created what, who had access to what, who has access to which users, who can make changes to password, changes to authentications. We have certain DoD and Homeland Security certifications with some of our partners. So we don't hold them directly, but our partners have gone through that. And then if we look into other things, financial institutes, where it's the same, okay, who has access, who has which rights. And then, of course, if you then extend it via the App Center, there are certain certifications or certain compliance and handbooks, and for the applications, if you look, emails and two factors. Yeah, normally most of them are available. Then if you need to go and create the handbooks or the compliance sheets for your clients, we're happy to share them out, minus of course the customer data.
Well, yeah, we don't want that for sure. Interesting. So it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife, based approach to not just user management, single sign-on, rights, roles, permissions, user onboarding, offboarding, right, by template, you said. And then, obviously you have the mix of premise-based applications and then cloud and SaaS-based applications. How much work is involved in like deploying and managing the solution? I mean, it seems like it could go a lot of different ways.
Depends on how you start. We just have rolled it out with a special effects company in LA, so Hollywood, and it took us around a day to get both the solution out, which gets the users in out of the legacy system, which was done in around I think we were done after an hour with these steps. An hour for someone to walk around, click every computer to make sure it works, because they have their compliance afterwards and they have to make sure, okay, whichever studio tells us to make special effects can show, okay, which user worked on it from where. There was kind of the break for us where someone walked in and made sure that this, and then we had a very interesting time in getting custom-made Linux and Mac applications tied in for half a day. But yeah, for a company of around 40 workstations and 200 servers in a render farm, it took around a day to get it ready.
Wow. Okay. Keith, I'm curious, right? You deal in heavily compliance-based, industries. What do you think about something like this? Do you think that would fit?
Well, I think it'll fit. I think it has a lot to do with how well it integrates into what tool sets we're using, the reporting functionality. When you get away from the technical people, the people that pay the bills and run a company, they go, you're selling me all this stuff, and how do I know it's really doing anything? So the reporting is real important, and just to use something that's not really your competition, but along the same lines, Duo does a report that shows how many people logged in and how many it blocked. And so I think that, looking at the reporting end would be important because, in the IT department, we're always asking people to spend money, and they're all going like, why did I spend it? Tell me I wasn't a stupid CFO.
If you look at our help desk database, one of the most clicked articles is how to replace the logo in the reporting function.
So clearly people are sending out a lot of reports.
Yes.
Which goes exactly into, okay, who logs in from where, from what system, from which workstation, when? Does it make sense if they're logged into from New York and at the same time from Shanghai? These kind of checks are also in there and typically reported. How many users are in there and what permissions do they have? It's also one of the favorite reports, and people normally think, oh, why is that guy who left 6 years ago still having an IT account in here? And which
we've seen a lot of people get hit with the forgot to offboard somebody out of the system, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's incumbent on us to issue the reports that remind people to tell us to offboard. I think that's what occurs in the loop. Someone, especially for smaller companies that aren't procedural based, all of a sudden they go, hey, this guy's been gone for 8 months and I still see him in the address book. And you're sitting there going like, no one told me. And I think it's better that we issue the report showing the activity and lack thereof, that we're being a little more proactive. I think it's important for us to go up there and say, hey, George hasn't logged on for like a week and a half. Is he gone? Is he dead? Is he in the hospital? He's on vacation again because he's a high roller. What's up?
By the way, just to answer that point, I don't know if I'm ever on vacation. I feel like I'm always working no matter where I'm at. Let's be honest.
No, I agree. I've seen your schedule. You are definitely a hard worker.
Vacation kind of sounds nice, not gonna lie. Anyway,
you wouldn't know what to do.
So
you'd be buying the family pizza at midnight. That'd be George.
Well, the pizza is there's definitely the pizza options. I have them everywhere for sure. So Kevin, is the design here that you would deploy a Univention server for every customer? Was that the original intention versus slicing out? Maybe like if I'm an MSP, I may take this, put it into private cloud or an AWS account or something like that, and then try and share it across multiple customers. Is that not the ideal deployment then? I would deploy one server per customer.
In the end, it depends on how you what the customer uses at the end, especially with legacy workstations. If they want to bring their Windows clients, their Macs into the system, you're more or less set to deploying it for one-on-one. So one server or multiple servers, depending on the size, for one customer. Just because the systems really don't understand it if you say, okay, there's multiple same users in the same system.
Okay. And like, how is it a subscription-based model? Is it a license perpetual-based model? Like, how does it work from a business?
So the software itself is open source and it's free to use. So if you want to go in, download it now, get it for your users ready. And then we sell support and services on top of that. And of course, training, and that way we make our money. And naturally, there's discounts for MSPs and special partner models for people who are active, who want to get it to multiple of their customers.
That's interesting. Open source model. That we almost never hear that. All right, it's almost foreign to MSP land to hear, open source model, but that's cool. So like basically, there's like hey, you can go play with this on your own. Don't no cost. And then it's like hey, if you want formal support, here's how the program works. That's where you're spending money.
Exactly. Which also means if you have a small project where you want to start with the customer, you can just go in, and if they then say, okay, we want to roll it out to 700 users, then the arrow is on you to say, okay, we really should get support for that if you want to have that many people on there. But if you're comfortable with it, you can still do it without.
So Keith, coming back to you're using Duo. It's that's a popular one in MSP land. Like Duo still has an appliance that needs to be installed locally if you want to do full SSL, right?
You can host it or build your own. I would say 90% of their installations are probably in their cloud. That's probably their secret sauce.
Okay.
Do you know that they're really, they made it so that they have a lot of templates, and they're not as in-depth as your guest is talking about. They're mostly like, I don't know, get SSO installed fast. I think that's their target.
Okay.
And they do that well. I mean, that's in that target, they do it well, but they're not a complete solution.
Gotcha. Do you, when you do single sign-on, are you doing more than just workstations and Microsoft? Like how deep are, like how many applications do you get deep on that?
Really, goal is to get all of them in.
I hear you. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that there's like a handful of things that are the go-to, and then all of a sudden it just stops cold. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Go to classical, what people are touching most: file services, things like Nextcloud, Dropbox, email. Everyone has an email address, even if they work on a shop floor. And then it's normally the CRM, or the customer relationship management, or enterprise resource planning. And then often it's one or two specialized applications. So if we go to our guys in Hollywood, their rendering farm, because 90% of their customers touch the rendering farm. For our guys in Pennsylvania who do dermatology, for them it's the patient management software, because everyone touches that, and no one really there likes IT from the doctors. So it's just from a point of, okay, make it easy for the IT guys. That one or two big applications. Other than that, and then afterwards you look at, okay, HR, finances, where you maybe have one or two people, and they kind of get forgotten, which I'm normally telling people, or especially our MSPs, go after the finance guy. They need to see what you're doing. And if it just takes you 10 minutes to integrate it, spend them, just build them to something else. But as long as they're happy, your invoice gets paid just twice as fast.
Yeah, well, the check signer is always the guy you got to keep happy. No, I like this. I'm going to share this one page. I like this graphic that you guys built right here. There we go. So it's like, hey, here are all these categories, right, that you can think about when you're tying this together. So I thought that that was a good, kind of visual, right, of all the things that you can do. I also noticed in your, like, you have like a little app store, right? A little app catalog,
Yeah.
that you kind of pre-built a bunch of stuff in here. So that's cool. I mean,
I should add, we only built the stuff which has a UCS on it. Everything else comes from whoever's the vendor for it.
okay. I mean, listen, if you're, if you got some time and you guys like to lab stuff, and I would say most MSPs have that person, right? That, the techie guy or girl that likes to like go into the back room and, kind of play with stuff. It costs nothing to download this and see what it does. I'd say give it a go.
That's what we generally say. Just try it. And if you don't like it, you can always delete the VM.
Okay. I think I'm gonna, well, I don't know when I have time. Maybe on planes, when I'm waiting for Keith Nelson to show up to the lounge.
Are you going to secure?
I'm not going to secure. Are you going? I assume that means you are going to secure.
Yeah, I just called my guy. He's picking me up Sunday.
Okay. All right. Yeah, no, I will not be there. Let me know how it goes.
Okay.
I will be in Denver for PAX 8 Beyond.
Yeah, that looks interesting. I may try and do that too.
I mean, that's a quick jump for you, right? Like, what's it, an hour flight? 2?
Yeah, that's nothing. Yeah.
So could be interesting. Maybe Kevin will get out of Seattle, where it's always raining, I think. And
Yeah.
like maybe he
I'm not sure whether Denver is the perfect place for not raining, but
it's true.
Yeah.
Very, constantly changing weather in Denver, I feel. But summertime, you hope that it's not too bad. Yeah, Kevin, this is a really interesting option, right? I think I never heard of it until this call, which is cool. We like to learn new things. I got a couple YubiKeys floating around, right? Might want to download this into a VM and play with it, and then connect it to a couple things and see what it does.
Yeah. It does look interesting.
I like it. How many customers do you have on this? Do you know?
I don't know the number of end customers because a lot of us are the MSPs. So we have the MSPs in between who then say, okay, we have 60 customers, but they've in my report only show up as one of the 1,600 buyers. But yeah, for the US, I think the number of installations, both who are not customers, so who use free version, and the who are commercial customers, approaches around the 3,000 mark now. Then
okay, that's good.
20 times more for worldwide.
Checks all my boxes. I think it's worth a look. Kevin, anything else that's worthwhile to share? Did we get the full picture?
I think you did a great job and drilling holes into me and finding our websites.
That's what I do. I ask the questions that everybody's going to ask at the bar. Well, what does it do? Does it take gas or electricity? I don't know. We'll figure out how the car drives.
Maybe it's hybrid.
Is that what you have, Ann? You have hybrid?
No, I have an old-fashioned car, but no, this looks really interesting. My head's kind of spinning because there's a lot here, and we're dealing with getting clients to do like really basic stuff. So fun times.
Yeah, if I talk to the Matt Lees of the world, he'll say, if it doesn't have SSO, don't deploy it, right? As an application. Of course, that he'll be one of the people that are proponents of why people tax for SSO. But I think that's where I learned it from way back when, SSO tax. But I mean, listen, obviously a lot of options out there. I guess I'm kind of surprised, right? And maybe it's more of a European model because we've talked about this until we're out of things to talk about. But like in this space, it's hard to sign up for something without a hook, right? It's like, oh, hey, you're going to sign a 3-year thing. And like, I didn't even try it yet. Like the car didn't even turn on for me yet. So like, I like the fact that like, it's kind of like you start as an open source solution, which is almost unusual, right? For our sandbox. It's like, okay, doesn't cost me anything. I'll give it a try just because, like no hook, right? And if I want to go bigger, then I'll go bigger. I mean, and then I can pay a little bit, but I like that. I like that model.
It makes it easier for us to sell it as well, because we don't have to convince you to sign up for a 3-year contract to give it a test drive.
Yeah, it's a very polarizing topic in our world. 3-year contracts. Awesome. I like it. We're gonna give it a kick. Anne, are you going to Secure?
Yeah, I'll be at Secure, and I'll also be at PAX 8.
Awesome. So I'll catch you on the back end of your trip there.
Yeah.
You're doing, now Keith Nelson will ask you if you fly first class, because that's the only way he likes to fly.
No, I'll be lucky if I get I think I'm going JetBlue, so I'll get maybe the even more space seats. If I'm lucky, I have to see.
It is awfully efficient, George. We've gone through this. You sit in the plane early. The guy takes your luggage. You sit down and get back to work, and you're doing billable hours. So first class is actually cheaper than coach.
Can we just talk for a second about how hard it is to get work done on a plane? It's
Up
tough.
front, not at all.
Come on, Keith. I mean, like 50-50 chance the Wi-Fi is not even working.
Your hotspots normally work on a plane. Don't tell anyone I
Not
told
in
you.
the air.
Yes, they do.
What?
The new ones, yeah.
No, I'm missing something. What happened?
And I've always got good Wi-Fi on Delta anyway.
Okay. I don't know what hotspot you're using that works 30,000 feet in the air. Maybe you should let me know. But yeah,
And
like
Delta always has good Wi-Fi anyway.
sure. I mean, sometimes it's broken. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, not everything you have to do is on Wi-Fi too. You could read, you could study.
Well, like Kevin just said, if it's in the cloud, the internet's like a thing. It has to be working. Can't get my email.
You can be queuing things up to upload once you get there. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
The other option is, of course, you could also argue, I'm going in the launch to meet a client at the departing airport, and that only works if I'm flying first class.
Oh, of course.
And see, George, I don't waste time with my luggage or anything. We've talked
Hold
about
on. I don't check. I mean, if you go to the George School of Traveling, there's no checked bags.
You get the guy drops you off in front of the terminal. You go in the priority line. You walk right through. You get to the lodge. You sit down, and you're done. No stress. No dealing with stupid people. You get to the conference relaxed and ready. I always laugh every time I get to a conference. I keep hearing people talk about horror stories. And I go, I never have those.
My horror stories are not with the plane part usually. It's with the line that you just walk through so nonchalantly.
Because I wear a Dallas Cowboy jacket and they know I'm an American. We've been through this.
In Philadelphia, that's a stop. I'm sorry. If you have the Dallas Cowboys, you have a Dallas Cowboys jacket on and I'm working security, you're getting stopped.
I'll get a Philadelphia Eagles jacket.
There you go. That's what I try and use when I'm rolling through Philly Airport, but sometimes that doesn't work for me either. Okay.
Yeah.
I digress. So it'll be interesting to see. Let me pick your brain, Kevin, because we haven't talked to you too much, but what are your opinion, right? I mean, I was talking to a couple of people like in the last day or two, and they're like, technology just runs at its own pace. We don't care. It doesn't care what's happening in the world, right? Like wars and debt ceilings and, recessions, right? Technology just keeps going. But then, you saw earlier in the year, all these big tech layoffs, right? 10%, 9%, 12%, 20%. What's your prognostication for the end of the year?
I think the biggest one is that we'll run into even bigger problems with cybersecurity.
That's a good one. I knew that. I wasn't expecting that one. Okay. Why? Because the bad guys are still getting smarter. That's what you're telling me.
That too. And thanks to slowing economy, you have 40% less investment in the next generation of tech into a cybersecurity startup. And I can guarantee you, whoever sits in the little cubicles in Russia or in China to hack us is not having to deal with 40% less budget.
No, probably not. Probably pouring money into trying to find out the holes in everybody else's stuff. Interesting. Okay. I subscribe to that. It's not going to get, it's going to be worse before it gets better. I agree.
Hopefully it gets better. Otherwise, we are a lazy species and we have been trained to just trust an 8-character password. So
when does the password finally disappear, right? Everybody's proclaimed that they've come up with the end to passwords. Like every month somebody says it, and I'm like, where is that? I feel like that's a marketing play. There's no actual truth to it.
It will disappear once we have a solution which I can give to a 6-year-old and I can give to someone with disabilities or to a Gen Z who doesn't want to use a smartphone. And all of these solutions right now are not applicable to any of these 3 groups. So you train them to use passwords and then you tell them, oh, what we told you for the last 16 years is wrong. And by the way, your coworker in a wheelchair still can't do it.
Interesting. Is that biometrics? Is that like the retina scan? Is it your fingerprint? Is it your hand? Is there a chip inside your arm somewhere? Like, what do you think it's going to be?
I think once we have biometrics down to a point where I don't have to trust the system to not store the actual fingerprint, then we'll see pickup in biometrics. But as long as I'm not sure that when I wave my hand over these Amazon checkout thing that they can get anywhere where I put my fingerprint on, until then, I don't think we'll see a strong adoption of biometrics, except for in places where there's an armed security guard standing behind you, making sure that no one is stealing that fingerprint.
So like clear at the airport.
Yeah, clear at the airport or CBP at global entry, or if you go into the CIA building, that might be the points where people say, okay, I'll trust enough to give my fingerprint. If it's, my Amazon checkout.
Have you actually been to like one of the Amazon place? Like, I don't know if they did it with.
I've seen them from the outside. I've resisted the urge to go in and have my picture taken 500 times in a second.
So the issue comes in when you start talking about this, which isn't so much. We've tried to introduce biometrics at the port and they were going like, no, the union fought retina scan and fingerprinting, said that violates their privacy, and they won in arbitration. So then you start running into the phone, and they came and said, well, if you're going to require my phone to log into my work computer, you're buying it and paying for it. And so now we're going to key fobs, and then they're going, well, you can't restrict us from working if we forgot our key fob. So there's some technical issues that you have to kind of like, we're hurdling through, which is interesting. And, it's just all part of implementing new technology. I mean, it's like, it is what it is.
The human element. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
It'll be like, if we fast forward 10 years from now, and at that point, you won't have the fish pond in the backyard. You'll have an entire, swimming pool. It'll be interesting to see how many of these barriers get broken through. Cause like Anne, I prefer the traditional car. I'm not about the hybrid, not about the electric. I have other people in my company that love the electric. I don't know. Like, I feel like the electric cars, they can shut it off on you, right? Like,
I have one of each.
passion.
I like the gas.
No, that happened to my husband on the highway. His Tesla rebooted.
What?
Yeah. So,
While he's driving?
yes.
Did the car stop in the middle of the
No,
road?
it kept going. I'm glad I wasn't in the car. We wouldn't own it anymore.
That's scary.
Yeah, and
There
he
is
said
nothing as
everything was
cool-
fine. It just
I
kept
tell my
driving and
son,
came back on.
there's nothing as cool as the rumble of a good gas engine.
Reminds like went to Prague, right, for the Enable Empower conference. We did a little block party there too. And man, Prague was like, I can't keep saying enough. It's like Soko went back in time just a little bit. It's like 70% of the stores wanted cash. Everybody was driving a diesel car. No electric cars. I didn't even see a charger. It was great. I mean, listen, I got to tell you, I liked it.
You know, you mentioned fast forwarding 10 years. Should make a little, we should make a technology time capsule of just what it's like so we can then revisit 10 years from now.
2033. What is it going to be like? Okay.
Yep.
Gonna write that one down.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
why no block party at IT Nation Secure?
Yeah, it's a good question. Never went to Secure. I tried to hit it, I think last year, and for some reason I didn't make it. I knew that was like the replacement to what was originally like kind of Automation Nation, right? And then they kind of stopped that, and then Secure kind of popped into place, and then Automation Nation kind of faded a little bit away. I don't know. Never been there. I know this is the fourth year, third, fourth. Yeah, I'm overdue.
I think fourth. Yeah.
I'm overdue. I need to check it out. I heard last year they had like 1,000 people or something, and I think this year it's gonna be.
It was. It was. I think it was bigger than I thought.
Yeah,
And they actually had me do a presentation.
Someone told me 2,000 this year. I don't know. That's a big jump, but yeah, I just never got there first to check it out and then figure out what was next. Obviously, we always try and do the big one at the end of the year, right? Connect in Orlando, like every other event in Orlando. So obviously we're planning for that one, but yeah, good question. Maybe next year. Let me know how it goes. Want to catch up with you in Denver at Beyond? I'll say, hey, how'd it go? Was it good? Slow, fast, busy? Is it at the same venue as last year?
No, this is at the Gaylord. Last year they were at a different.
Okay, cool.
I think
Cool.
this is where they had the big IT Nation, right? Keith, do you
No,
remember?
that was Shingle Creek.
Last year we stayed at the same hotel. Secure was right before I believe it was right before IT Nation. I thought I stayed.
No, it was always in June.
Okay, I stayed for some. Maybe I stayed for.
So the answer is it's probably the same venue that they had last year's IT Nation Secure.
I stayed for something when I saw George. When we went to your concert.
You have your buddy Sean to hang out with. Tell him I said hello.
I'm not sure if he's going. I think he's out of town.
Oh, that's odd. I would have expected him to be there.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, so Ann and Keith will bump into each other at IT Nation Secure. They're gonna take some notes.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what it's all about. I'm excited to hear about it. In the meantime, Kevin is going to tell people go to uni, like university, Univention, like I created an invention, but VENTION, univention.com. Download this sucker, give it to one of your techs, fire it up, see what it's all about. And like Kevin, I'm sure if they really want to find you, they can contact you where? LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is my preferred platform. Otherwise, there is a contact form on the website, which somehow ends up with me.
I hear that. I do.
There is someone who assigns me tickets for some reason.
I know. Everybody has that problem. I really appreciate you for jumping on today. We learned about something completely brand new today, which I love. I love learning new things. Ann and Brian and Keith and anyone else who's watching this podcast, thank you. Obviously like to put out interesting things out to the world. Of course, this was recorded, so you can go back and pick Kevin's brain in rewind. We'll post this at mspinitiative.com under sessions. And then keep coming back here Tuesdays, Thursday, or maybe we'll see you in person somewhere. Otherwise, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Perfect.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.